Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on this report, and I too would like to offer my congratulations to Aotearoa and the Maori Select Committee for the terrific work that they have done on bringing this hugely important issue to the attention of the House. I wanted just firstly to point out that tobacco was very much part of the culture of New Zealand right up until the 60s. In fact, it was very much part of the culture of the Western world right up until the 60s. It was more or less used as a prescription by doctors who smoked heavily themselves, and of course it was given to all the armed forces who became addicted. And in the decades past then, we witnessed the awful suffering that they went through as they died from lung cancer, throat cancer, lip cancer, etc. It wasn't until about the 1960s that Sir Richard Dole discovered the link between tobacco smoking and lung cancer. A very detailed and elegant piece of epidemiological work that took a great deal of time to finally prove, and of course met with great opposition by the tobacco industry. And that's why this particular report is so important, in that it is an inquiry into the tobacco industry, and of course particularly in Aotearoa, where Maori are dealt such a huge blow, both in terms of mortality and morbidity, which is far greater than that in the rest of the population. Nevertheless, I did feel that Aotearoa was particularly controversial when he suggested that the Health Select Committee had failed to do anything over decades, because after all, I must acknowledge that in the last Labour government they did bring in the Smoke-Free Environments Act, which was extremely positive and which I personally voted for because I felt it was a very important piece of public health prevention. One must say that only about 15 years in New Zealand, our buses, our aeroplanes, our restaurants, our hotels were full of smoke, and people, whether they themselves smoked or not, were having to breathe in second-hand smoke and were suffering in their thousands. That piece of legislation has been particularly useful, but it was preceded by a hang of a lot of work by a great many people, including ASH New Zealand, led by Dr. Loganson, who has worked tirelessly in this area, both internationally and nationally, for years. I also think that Professor Beaglehold should be mentioned for his extraordinary work again on the epidemiology of this problem throughout New Zealand. As an obstetrician, I of course have been deeply concerned that we have had thousands of cohorts of New Zealand babies condemned in the womb to being stunted in growth, and also probably to be stunted in their intellectual opportunities later in life. So there's no doubt, Mr. Speaker, that this inquiry is particularly timely, and it will lead to legislation which I understand is going to be introduced tomorrow, which will bring in one step further in the battle to achieving an essentially smoke-free Aotearoa. There's no doubt that once again...
Order. I regret to advise the member that it's gone 6 o'clock. It's time for the dinner break. The House is adjourned until 7:30.
Nothing stops that.